All good? Everybody can listen there? All good there? Should be fine. My fault to be on Twitter very soon now. This guy is tweeting Yama. It'll be in 5 seconds. Done? On Twitter? Almost. I'm the first luck session here. What you guys, what's the background? More development and developer here? Quite a lot of developers. And the others IT pro? Okay, yeah. And if you are not IT pro and if you are not a developer, or a manager. Anyone doing API management already? Or? Yeah. That's good. Azure API management or using Azure? Okay, good. That's good to hear. That's using standard or using Azure standard layer or which like tier using like developer standard? Standard. That's good. Anyone doing microservice? You guys are doing microservice? That's nice. Microservice using .NET or anyone using another language, Java or Node or something? Yeah, I know you guys are doing. That's sick, yeah? Using, which language are you using at the moment?
So mainly .NET, but Go is getting a lot of traction as well.
Go, yeah. That's available now, yeah, on Azure. You can deploy Go apps. It's good. Not sure when it'll be kicking off, but that's 1:30 sharp. Oh, people are still having lunch. And I think we can start talking. First of all, I put myself to talk about, publishing containerized microservice with Azure API management. Having said that, there's a lot of happening there. My name is Jorge Arteiro. I'm working for Cloud Solutions as a development consultant. And when you talk about microservice, you talk about container, you talk about API management, we are talking about a lot of things. Okay? My plan for this session is we can see the whole thing. We can see what we talk about. API consolidation, that's a lot of people working on API consolidation on enterprise. And what's microservice? I just saw there's like 4, 5, or 6 people already doing microservice here. I can tell you that you probably already are doing microservice you don't know. If you're doing SOA, service-oriented architecture, that's microservice. The difference, I think, is now that the things become smaller. Okay, the services are becoming even smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're going to see that. And containers, everybody's talking about containers. You saw the open session talk about the operation management system and see how container will be coming soon. You saw that, coming soon? Coming soon, then we are talking about something that is happening. Having said that, container is there for a long time. You have Java containers, you have all these things, you have Docker. It's not from 3 months ago. What's happening is getting speed now. And we have this product from Microsoft, Azure API Management. It's like 1.5 years, Microsoft bought a company called Epiphany and become a new product for Azure. They are working very hard on this product. They're improving, very fast. And you're going to have a look on that. And deployment automation. After the open session, I don't even know if I'm going to talk about deployment automation because there's a lot of new products coming, and not just for Microsoft, but yeah, then we can at least discuss, how should be deployment automation using API management. And a lot of demos, and leave some time for us to have questions. That's important. First thing about API consolidation is, I got this a few weeks ago. I was looking these new, I think coming from Microsoft Ignite in America. If someone was there, I think Simon was there. And people start talking more about the new Office 365 Unified API, still in preview. And what's that? That's Microsoft consolidating all the, the service that they have for Office 365 in just one API. And that to be this Graph API here. All the applications are going to talk with just one API. And it will be just one authentication. Then you can use the same, authentication to connect all these service, or how you want to call microservice. I don't think that's too small, but it's still, you consolidate some service in just one API, and you can have your insights. Having your insights and have just one, front end, that's API. That's API management, that's consolidation. I don't know how they are doing. I'm not using Azure API management, but I can show you all the, samples that, as examples that using API management as well. That's how going to be just one API, graph, Microsoft.com, version, and it'll be version 1, your tenant, user, and files, like if you want to get files, like our entity set, you can have properties, you can have all the navigation properties as well. That's how they are consolidating all the Office 365 APIs. And let's say it's still in preview, maybe they changed some things. I think one thing to watch is how they are doing like the version thing here at the front. Then used to be before, like if you go back, used to be one version for each product here. And that's just the beginning. You know, Office 365 is not just this service here. That's just for the first preview. A new thing's coming every week for this API, okay? That's a good thing that's happening now in API consolidation. And then you come to this backend, let's say backend microservice. And when you talk about microservice, we talk about APIs, because most of the microservices are deployed as APIs, as REST APIs. And that's where we come in. Microservice, we can see why microservice. Why not just that we used to do, that monolithic application all together there. I think, you know, everything in IT changed with telecommunication. What's happening, how you deploy the application, how, you know, where your application is. Because everything is changing, you know, have all this device, new device, mobiles, tablets, laptops, and we start thinking about how to make the things easier to deploy, new features. Microsoft used to deploy a new release every like 6 months, and every year. Now they have every fortnightly, I can tell you. If you guys are not following, there's a lot of products that have even weekly release. And I think microservices is helping to do that. They are building things very, you know, smaller and smaller. It's easy to deploy. It's not going to break anything else. But having said that, you have to really think about testing. Testing is very important on that. I think that's the main reason. I'm not going to hear, if we're going to discuss why microservices, we're going to stay like, we could stay for 1 hour here just discussing why we should be using microservice. Okay, the idea here is how we're going to publish microservice using one API management, how we can do that. But if there's any session at Ignite that you can watch about microservice, I think if you really are looking to do that, you should go and, you know, follow this session as well. That's how we talk about microservice. We talk about, you know, RESTful APIs. We talk about something. Anyone heard about this thing called Swagger here? Anyone using Swagger? That's good. Swagger is like an API definition. And just recently, Microsoft, IBM, the big companies, they, you know, starting using more Swagger. And we have like Wedo, we have Remo, we have all the API definitions. But for REST APIs, Swagger is becoming, you know, the standard. It's becoming the standard, and I think Microsoft, I can see that's investing a lot on Swagger at the moment. Swagger now is open. Smart Bear, a company Smart Bear, they deploy like Soap UI, all these products. They bought Swagger like a year ago or something, and they just, last week, I'm talking about something that happened last week, Swagger became open, and there is an open API initiative to create like a API definition using Swagger as base. Then if you guys starting looking about this open API thing, definition, that's Swagger. That's coming from Swagger. There's a new version. We have now Swagger version 2. I'm going to talk about the Swagger version 2. But there is a version 3 coming with this open thing involving Microsoft, IBM, and other big companies. And what happened at the moment is I was talking last week with a guy from New York, and Ted, and he's going to listen to that, and he just created a product. He's releasing a product called Represent that's going Swagger, using Swagger. It's just creating API definition. The thing is, how are you going to do it? You're going to write your code, then from your code, you're going to generate your API definition, or you can have like an editor that you can create your API the way that you want. Okay, one operation like that. And then after that, you generate your code from that definition. That's what's happening now. There's a lot of products coming. If you look Swagger editor, swagger.io, then you can see, I can open here later to show you guys this. What we have for .NET, what we have for Web API, we have this product called, this NuGet package called /buckle. That's pretty much, if you have your Web APIs done, you can just plug this NuGet package and you can have all the Swagger generated from your Web API. That's nice. Who's doing Web API here? Yeah, a lot of people doing Web API. And then it's just, I'm going to show you that. That's be nice to show, and you guys can see how you can do it. And not long ago, Microsoft said, okay, let's do like auto rest. Auto rest is, I have my API, or multiple microservice API, a few like 5, 10, 20, 100 APIs. And sometimes you need to generate client code for this thing. And what auto-rest is going to do is generate the client code. It's code generation. It would be like, who used the WSDO code generation before? That's the new generation. That's the new WSDO code generation that we have now. And I think you guys should follow that. That's improving. That's not talking about just .NET. You talk about generate Node.js, Java, Go as well. Yeah, someone using Go here, then Go, they can generate a few languages using this auto-rest there. And how these things are going to change, like deployment, everything's going to change, yeah? And then we can see something about deployment as well. And that's what I was talking about. How we should do? We should create the API, generate your Swagger, that's your API definition, from your API that you have. If you already have your API, that's fine. You can do that. You can just plug something, generate your Swagger, then use auto-rest to generate the client. If you want to write a new application from that API, you can generate the client, and then you can just use that client that you're using to consume your APIs. Or you can create your Swagger, create your API definition using those tools that are coming every day, yeah? And it's more like before we start doing something, let's sit and let's discuss how should be. How should be your data, okay? I think that step, that's going to be changing from this to this, is already happening. And you have to find the right tool for you. And it's pretty much, you don't write any code, you just write some APIs. There are tools from like SmartBear that you can just like prototype your API. I just want to see, how it works. Because on that definition here, you can say the response type will be that. You can give a sample of the response of your API. That be a JSON or something. And you have everything here. You have like, I want to have API for contact. Okay, I have get my contact by ID. Then I can tell exactly that get by ID, what should be responding, okay? And you have everything on the definition. There are tools now that you can get this Swagger and do like a virtualization of your API, and pretty much you do before you do any code. And when you get your data models all approved, and then you don't want to start writing APIs that don't talk easy between each other. And these tools here, these editors are going to help us to create these data types that you can share the definition between those APIs. And that's one thing really we have to keep watching on. Okay, let's see. Can we switch over here? Let's see how this works. I hope you guys like my background. Let's have a look. I think it should be Should be. Is the size okay there, or a little bit more? Let's just. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to quickly, I have one done here, but be probably simple to show how to create one. Just create one API. Can show first this one here. What I'm going to do is, when I said version like 4, 5, 6, that's the .NET one that I'm using here. And anyone doing ESP.NET 5, the latest version, VNext here? Anyone play with that? Not much yet. That's why I'm still using 4, 5, 6. But I'm going to have a look on ESP.NET 5 as well when we're going to look at containers. And if you don't know, like, there's the new Windows containers. We have to use ESP.NET 5 to deploy on that. We're going to have a look on that. But let's create this from scratch. What do you have to do? You just go here, create new project, .NET 4.6 or whatever. You can use another one. Ignite, live demo. Live demo API. Probably wrong. If you have, you can see that Azure API app, that's one way you can do it. All these tools, if you use this preview template, all these tools for Swagger generation, they are already inside the template. You don't have to do anything. They're going to generate the configuration file. Then you can have this Swagger already using this template. Doesn't mean that if you have an API, you cannot just, set yourself. And like I said before, you can have this NuGet package / bucket that you can do it. But if you use this template, it's already there. Okay, let's do it using this one. And because these. I don't know, my computer is very slow today, but these things are changing so fast. Like I said, there are things changing last week, and you have hours to. The template's never going to be 100% updated. And then normally there is some things that you have to do it, but I can show you that's not much. See, I have a simple web API. There's just one controller here. That's it. If I run that, I think I have to do this. That's my API running here. If I say Swagger docs v1, there you go. I haven't done anything. Templates doing everything. You have this Swagger file here with your API definition. Using version 2, then you can use that Swagger to, like you're going to see, you can use to create your API management layer with this Swagger file. Okay? To help a little bit, my previous application, I have done some improvements, okay, on that application, but works out of the box. If you look, it's pretty much the same thing, the other one that I just created. Okay, you have this new thing here called Swagger config file. Let's maybe It's nice because there's a lot of, the documentation for the, for the configuration is all there. If you go step by step looking here, you can improve the Swagger that's getting be generated. Just, removing the comments here for each section of this config file. And see, I'm doing like a single API. If you go to the top here, you have this Swagger config file. Yeah, the size is good there. Is good the size of the, good there, okay. Okay, see that Swagger config file here, you have this single static medical register. And that's the only thing you do. You just call this extension method, then you can set things like I want a single API version. You can use multiple versions if you want here. You can see it's all commented out. That's why when I move back to the browser, you see this link here, Swagger docs v1. That's the version 1 of my API. And going back to the template, you can see that. That's v1 here. Okay? That means you can even manage multiple versions. And going down, I made an improvement here. I said, I want to include all the, see that? I want to include all the XML comments that I have on my API. Web API is all about controllers, yeah? You have the controllers there, and they see all these comments now. Any comment that you're making here, okay, are going to be part of API definition. And there's another thing that I'm using there, see Swagger response. You can have attributes to have all these, what they call Swagger operation, Swagger response. Because Swagger doesn't work very well with overloading. If you have get in get, if you don't want to rename your get to be get by ID, you can just use this Swagger operation. Then you can have a different name if you're using get and get. As Web API, you can do it using overloading. And then, and if you go back here to, that's what I did. So include XML comments. And another thing I'm going to show now is I enabled this one, enable Swagger UI. Okay? Swagger UI is that. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to leave open here, both open. Swagger UI index. Is the right one? Oh, sorry, I have to run because that's the old one. That's not running. It will be now. Just to make sure that first I create one from scratch, okay, just to show that's there, it's on the template. Now I have this other solution that I created, that I made some improvements. I just removed, configuration. And now if you go here and you say /Swagger UI index, there you go. You have all your Swagger UI is like a documentation for your API, okay? Then imagine like you have your API, you attach this swashbuckle NuGet package, then you have now this Swagger version 2 file that we just saw here. You have this is our API definition. Then you can have Swagger UI. Swagger UI is just like a JavaScript rehash, like a HTML5 JavaScript file that gets your Swagger version 2. It generates like an interface with all the operations, And if you go through here one by one, you can see that the response, everything that's coming from the API, but pretty much generated by the Swagger file that we did before. Okay, that means that if you have multiple controllers, it will be all here, all the operations will be here, and they even give you here on top. Can you see that on top here? That's the link to download the Swagger file. And if you copy here, and if you just drag, that's it. You have your Swagger definition, API definition file that you can get, and you can deploy this API, create another API with the same definition, okay? And you can even see here, see get values, summary here. Anything that you're going to have on your source code, anything that you're going to have inside your API controllers here, that's going to go into the Swagger file, and Swagger API can show that. That's something I want to show here back is, just a second. The next thing is how we deploy that. Yeah, I'm talking about containers, and switch over back there. I'll have to move faster. Containers. That's not exactly the container that we are looking for. That's the nasty. I got this from another session there, but talk about containers, and that's what everyone is talking about, yeah? Talking about these Windows Server containers, we talk about these Linux containers using Docker, and Docker is there for, yeah, some time. Windows container is just happening. Anyone is already play with the Windows Server Preview 3, version 3? Nobody? Anyone? Just one? What happened is, I think back in August, Microsoft released a Preview 3 of Windows Server 2016, the one that OpenNote was talking about, that's coming and changing everything. And that preview allows us to use containers on Windows. It's a Windows container, okay? And this stuff can run anywhere. We're talking about Azure, we're talking about, you know, your data center, anywhere. This Windows Server you can install, yeah, in like a normal Windows Server 2016. And then from next year, you can install and you can use in containers, not like virtual machine anymore. We talk about lightweight VMs, let's say, containers, a lightweight VM, or how we want to call that. But containers is helping us to move forward and help us to deploy service. If you can switch back, Jeremy, thanks. What I have here is, I have a Windows Server 2016. I'm going to remote connect this one. That's what they call core server. There is no web user interface. It's just like command line. This is running on Azure as well. And if I remember my password, I should be able, yeah. Everybody was, maybe it works, maybe not. Okay. Yeah, not. What happened is, that's the Windows Server 2016 Preview 3. You can do yourself. You can go on Azure, and you can go there and create a virtual machine with a server like that. The difference is here, that server is running Docker now. There's a Docker engine there. You know, there's a Docker daemon that you can connect remotely there, and you can deploy things there. I don't want to work inside the VM, okay? Everything now, why there is no user interface more for the servers? Because everything will be done remotely now, okay? And if I go back to my desktop here, the server is running on Azure, Windows Server 2016, Preview 3, nice. I want to see what's there, okay? I have my server here. I just, using Docker, we can look my server using, remote connection, TLS, and let's say I want to see all the Docker image that I have there inside my server. There you go, works, luckily. And then that's something that I created, before. And I created like 3 months ago this server. And you can see here that we have a VM called Windows Server Core. Okay. What happened is we have a virtual machine. Then we have Docker engine running there. Then you can have containers running inside that virtual machine, like we have like VMs, but very lightweight, not very much yet. That's still like a good size here. I think that was the first preview. Okay, everything was there, and if anyone using Docker on Linux, anyone using Linux here or no? Nobody? Yeah, just one. You can see that the images are very small image, then you still have this, but that's going down. And what I did, I just create like image from my applications. You can see here doc ESP.NET demo API, and Azure API, Windows Docker. Like those are applications that I developed from my Visual Studio. I create a Docker image here. And now with this Docker image, I can just run that. Okay, I can just create a container. You can, guys, I'm not going very deep on Docker, explain all these things because that's going to be just 1 hour discussing that. But Docker is pretty much, we create like templates. That's all your images. These templates can be including everything that you need. Imagine like a virtual machine template that you have there. That's pretty much what we can have. If you want to have everything already, configured inside the VM, you can have inside the image as well. Or Docker, you can just do that when you create the container. Okay, that's the template. That's not the container yet. That's just a template that you generated. That means that I create an image with my application inside. Okay, then I can get this image and create a container and deploy anywhere. My application is there, and could be running inside that server, could be running on my desktop, could be running any place. That's the idea. That's the main idea. How this works. If you go here, Docker, PS, it's just like, I have something already running there. And you can see that I have someone that's not running anymore, except like will be this application here. That's a web application that I developed. Just create a normal web application, deploy. That's it. Haven't changed anything. You create a web app using Visual Studio and deploy. That's what I did. The same thing for this one here, for the API. So the application that I did before is exactly that application running there. And as you can see here, the application is running for 14 hours. Okay, up 3 hours. Was created 14 hours ago and is up for 3 hours. Where is this application running? That I'm going to show you guys right now. That's my application. The same one that I did here locally, I deploy on the cloud, and I have the same thing running there. If someone say, I want to prove that, I want to, can you prove that? Yeah, if I say Docker stop, and you can, where's this? I want to stop that. Hopefully stop, but I'm not sure if that's the right one running. Let's see if it's still running. That's a preview. You're going to get some error message sometimes, but trust me, even if sometimes if the error message works, yeah, see, we can go there again and see if it's still running. It's not stopping. Yeah, let's do ID. I was using both, but works. That's using ID, that's correct, yeah. Looks like stopping now. There you go. If you go back there, my application not running. See, I can deploy multiple applications on the same Docker engine, like, not going to be one application. But the containers are complete, isolated. They are not just one thing running. They are complete. There is isolation there. And say application is not running anymore. And if I go here and say Docker start and start the other one, I'm not going to start both at the same time, just because I'm using the same port 80, and I don't want to change now. But you can, map multiple ports. Let's say I want to run one application port 80, or do all the management. You can have different IPs for each application. I'm not just doing that for this demo, but yeah, for sure, you can deploy anything the same way that you deploy in your server. Oh, sorry. What's this starting? Then I stop one application, and I start another one. I just want to show that we have, let's go into again. That's a version that VM I created 3 months ago, just after the release. I'm not sure if they did some new version or something, but anyway, still most of the time working. What's this thing? I'm just using the same domain too. I should go here and look if, nah, it's not running yet. It's not running yet. Looks like going to happen now. I think sometimes what happens is when you're going to have this, at least on that version that I have, when you stop and start containers, still some, I think they still work on they stop the other one, and when you try start something, then fails. That's the main reason. It's not, performance still not 100%, but works. And yeah, now if I go back, if I go there, I can see now I have my application. Can you see, guys, here? Application is up 20 seconds. And the other one is stopped. Then let's go and see if I can see my application. Yeah, there you go. I have a normal, MVC application running here. And that's running inside Docker container. Hey guys, good? I deserve like And I think what's nice on that, you can have these in your, if you have Windows 10, you can have a Hyper-V, you can have a Windows Server locally. If you don't want to use the cloud, you can just install Windows Server 2016 and play locally. Yeah, create. You can do that on Linux as well. Okay, Microsoft is really investing in Linux. I have like a laptop, like 9 years old laptop. When I moved to Australia, back 2007, I have this laptop. I have Linux there. I have Docker. And it's so easy to create, containers and deploy things. And if you guys are using other languages, then yeah, it'll be easy. And the nice thing is ESP.NET 5 now. This application is that I'm deploying here. That's not that 4, 5, 6 that I did before. Okay, I want to just quickly show now. That's a version using ESP.NET 5. Okay, and let's see if I have open here. It's the same one using, that I developed, but just using ESP.NET 5. And I can quickly show you here. think I have this here somewhere. Not sure if this one is better. Even better. We can just do quickly. This here is like. Just to see if you guys can see that is. When you go here, okay, you can just see ESP.NET previews. And if you do this, Microsoft released what they call Docker extension tools. It's an extension for Visual Studio. You can download and install that. And then you have all these features to download from your Visual Studio to Docker. Okay, that's what I'm doing. And, so I just create an application, and then I want to deploy this here. I want to publish this. And see, Docker containers. Okay, you can do that yourself here. You can select like a virtual machine from your subscription, Azure subscription, or you can even just click here if you already have your server done, as I have. And you can have your set up here, your Docker, and I'm not going to spend too much time, otherwise we have to look on the API management, and but that's what should you be looking? There are links that can help you to look on that. I can show you here some links. Put here for a while, then you can quickly have a look there later. Okay, and then Docker extension here, you can go and it'll be easy. If you follow these steps here, you can do that yourself for sure. And that's the extension just going to the top that you have to download. There's a new version, that came not long ago, 2 weeks ago. That's the one that I'm using. And just make sure that if you have, the latest PowerShell version 1 that's changing everything, maybe, we have to wait a little bit. Otherwise, don't install the latest PowerShell if you want to play with that. But should be fine. Okay, let's switch back there. And, sorry, I don't have time to look at everything, but just to give idea, and I think was good. Let's move to API management. What's that API management? Like I said before, we have this, product that can help us to consolidate. There are many things that you can do with Azure API management. I'm trying to just talk here on this session about consolidation, API consolidation, how you can do that, But API management can be used to monetize like Expedia is doing. Yeah, you are selling your API as a product. That's something that you can for sure use API management. You can use API manager as like a front end for like a mobile application. You can use API management for inside like an enterprise company. You guys are using like is an enterprise. Yep, like to consolidate your service, your microservice, and helps with a lot of things like caching, authentication, as we're going to see here. Then how this works? API management, like everything happens on these procs, and here will be fine, it'll be easier. This proxy here is where is the engine is running. Let's say who is receiving the calls for your API, and API management is like I was talking about Office 365, that layer between your customer, your client, and your backend service. And this, you have like 3 components of Azure API management that you can, where the things are organized to help you to build this layer. And the main one, like to build, like for the administrator, will be this publisher portal. But they have what they call development portal as well. What happens is you deploy all your APIs, and you want to make this open for the public, or for your internal developers, or for your partners, like if you have a business-to-business integrations. And this development portal is going to, help you to expose your API to the public, and you're going to have a look on that. Then all your developers and partners are going to use in this development portal. Your apps are all connecting your backend service that could be hosted anywhere, any language you can develop that. If it's a REST API, like you talked before, then you can host anywhere, and your API manager is going to make, the proxy layer for your backend APIs. And let's go in here. That's a quick, I don't want to spend time on that, but Azure API Manager is already in 15 Azure regions, and they have all these numbers. They have 1.5 billion calls a month, 450K portal visits a month, 4,000 customers, and 39,000 developers already using this. And that's probably just the beginning. And yeah, let's go here for, let's see what's going to be here. Can we switch back here, Jeremy? Thanks. Let's close that. If I go my Azure portal, Azure API Manager is still using that's the current portal. Yeah, we have like a preview portal for Azure, this one. And you have, the current portal. And you can see here that I create, if you go here, sorry, it's a lot of things, but API management. I have one API management here. You can go here and create yourself. That's not, what's that? I lost API management. API management. See, it's very easy to create. You just get a URL, your subscription and region, you pretty much create that. Okay. Things that you should know here is like, that's very nice. You have, for your proxy, you have like a static IP. If you're using standard layers or something, you have this IP. Then you can use that IP for security. Okay, you're just going to allow access to your backends from this IP. That's the first security that you have. That's my link. That's my Azure API management here. That's the link that I have. That's a public link. You can have if you configure here, you can have your custom domain. You can just set your domain for the development portal and for the API itself. Okay? You don't have to use the Microsoft domain. You can have yours. You can have VPN connection to use the express route or the connection you can have. You don't have that on the standard layers. You have to go for for premium layers, and but it's available. There you go. You have like API management here. You can have developer. I'm just using developer. It costs like $60 a month. There is no free layer here. You have to pay $60 a month if you want to play with that. I think you should have a look on that. $60 a month is nothing, and then you can have pretty much the whole thing that you can play and see if the right product for you. And if you go like for premium, you can see that you can scale these in multiple regions. And you have all that 15 regions that we're talking about, we can deploy that. This guy was making a session last decade about API management, and there is no premium layer at that time, yeah? They just released like 6 months ago. That's premium layer. Now you can have You can deploy pretty much in any region, your proxy. Imagine that all the customers are calling, doesn't matter where they are going to get a proxy close to them, then performance will be nice. Okay, let's go to the portal. And let's go open this thing here. That's what they call Azure Publisher Portal. That's where we can pretty much create your API. You can, go there and manage your products, manage your. I'm going to show how we do that. We do that using something like this. Probably it'll be easier to show. Yeah, it'll be good here. We have on the portal, we have see all these API products, user groups here. That's how it works. You have your users will be your developers or your partners, okay? Anyone that you want to open your API, give you access to your API, they want to have access using this, what we call this developer portal. See, nice? This is what we call a developer portal. Any API that I'm publishing here on this, they have access here. I'm connecting as administrator, okay? And I can see my APIs there. And how we do that? We do that exactly in subscribing to products, okay? We go here and see, I want to subscribe for a product. Imagine that you go here and you create like a user account on this API here. There's a public API. Cloud create a public API that you guys can play and have a look. Then, and you can do that in many APIs. There's a lot of APIs public now that you can do that yourself. You don't have even to create API management. Have you guys heard about Project Oxford? Then I'm going to share Project Oxford. Even this will be probably here. You see on my subscription, all these things here from the marketplace. And you see all these free here, free tiers. And those are are services on the cloud, on Azure, that you can create for free. And one thing is what they call like Face API. That's from Microsoft. That's free. It's face recognition. You could be using that, in your applications or wherever. And if you go for the Face API is one nice, so you can go like Bing search. You can have, a lot of search for free using this service here. Those are everything are pretty much APIs there. A service that are on the cloud that you can use. But why I'm showing that? When I'm talking about consolidation, we don't want to call these directly. Okay, we want to have like imagine like if you have 5 or 10 different products in your company that you want to have like face recognition for some reason. How are you going to give a username and key or authentication for each application to connect there? Or we can just create an API management here that's going to do that authentication for us. That's how we can use those services using API management. Okay, that's just an example of how we can do. Let's see if I can Face API. This one here is pretty good as well. It's like a translation, okay? But let's go back there. And how API management help us to use that? Sorry, just a second. If you go here on the development portal, okay, I can come here and I can, let's open this in another browser. Okay, I don't have a user, okay? That's a public portal. that they are exposing products and APIs that you can subscribe. Maybe they share something, maybe not. This portal is completely dynamic. You can configure, you put your logo, you can change these tabs here, products, APIs, you can change anything here, And you can just go here, sign in, and you create a user. You can see, you can have Azure Active Directory integration. That's very important. Then I'm going to log in as my Hotmail account. It should be. That Azure AD is more like for enterprise. If you have your Active Directory and you have your users, you can use Active Directory to do that integration. And then I'm going to sign up here. I have an account already done using this one. That's fine. But we don't have much time to go deep on that. I'm trying to simplify here. Like API management is like you have the users, okay? You can subscribe to products, and you have in your products you have APIs, and you can just consume your APIs using a single subscription key, okay? Imagine that I'm going here on this simple Ignite. That's my product. I have an API, when I have an API called Basic Calculator, for example. That's something you can play. That's a standard here on Azure API Management. Then remember that Swagger UI definition that you have? You can have the same thing here. You have all your documentation here. You can centralize your Swagger definition that you have, and you can just create APIs to do that. You can go here on the publisher portal. You can go in APIs, and you can import API using Swagger. Can you guys see the Swagger there? You can just have your Swagger and create your API from the Swagger that we did before. Okay, and this API is going to show here. That's the API that I create. I just use the Swagger definition, and I create an API. And from the portal, the developers, they can play. They don't have to have Visual Studio or anything. Okay, we just publish some APIs. I want to see if I want to buy, if I want to use that API in my product. I can come here and I can try that. I can say, okay, to call this API, I can send like 2 numbers, and I want to see the result. Okay? Nice thing here as well, you can see is like what's that? Yep. See, what's the developer portal is? Is a playground for the developers. They can, look what's available there. Okay, we have all these products. We have all those APIs. I want to create a subscription. API management is going to help you to authorize a subscription or not. When someone goes here and I want a subscription for that, the administrator are going to get an email and say, okay, I'm going to allow this user to have a subscription or not. There's a lot of things happening here. Okay, and one thing I don't think we're going to have time to see. What's a shame, but let's see if we can. Probably have 5 minutes more. We can have a look on that. If you want to really play with Azure API Management, there's a lot of things you can do. You can, you have a REST API to. Don't have to use the portal. You can use a REST API to create your APIs, create everything from like PowerShell, from any environment that you want. And so you can, a lot of different ways to do authentication to your backend. When your API is calling the backend, they can use client certificates. They can use basic authentication. There's different ways to do it. I think to finish, we have to look in policy. That's more important. I was looking to show a lot of things here, but I have some policy that I created before. What's policy is? Policy is all the logic, all the engine for your APIs, is how you're going to say, because API management is going to help you with caching, as I said before. It's helping with authentication. It's helping with, rate limits. I'm going to give a subscription for someone. I don't know. I want to give a subscription for him, but I'm going to set like a rate limit for him. Like he can call this API 100 times in 1 week or 1,000 times per week. Just, I don't want to then call in this API 100,000 times in 1 day. Then you can have all this. And if you maximize here, you can see all the policies that you have available at the moment. It's a lot of things. You can do authentication. You can check a header. Like your API get a request, you can check if you have like authorization header on your request. And you can create a policy here to say, if you don't have this header, I'm not allowing the call to go through my proxy. We can control flow here. You can have like a logic. If that, do that. If not, do that. It's like this policy is what's growing on API management. Is all, your code is there. They are going to have Git integration with this thing. Then you can have all this code here for your policy, all this configuration for your policy. Then you can use Git source control to manage that. That's what's coming next. Be available very soon. You see, one thing I create here that's pretty nice is any error that I have on my APIs, I'm logging these on Event Hub. That's a new feature released like 2 weeks ago. Then Event Hub is our Azure service that you can just log things, okay? And it's very powerful. Can handle millions of requests per second. And then that's something pretty nice. It was released, I think, 2 weeks ago. Then you can just do whatever you want. You can log anything that you want from your calls. And from this Event Hub, you can just do like you saw on the open session, talk about streaming analytics, Power BI. That's very nice. That's just this filter. That's something you should be looking for Azure API management because now you have access to everything. And I don't think we have time to go really through, but you can see you can convert, you can get a response in XML and send back to the customer as JSON. You can convert this on the fly. You can use calls. You can see rate limit is so easy to do. And let's go back to my. If I select here I have see a rate limit set. I'm setting for this product, starter, just a product that I'm making available for the public for them to play. If you subscribe for this product, I'm just going to give you, 50 calls per minute, maximum. That's a way that you can, stop people to using much your service if you are going to give them for free. That's how, most of the services are managing this like that. And what more? There's something that's in private preview, but they gave me authorization to talk about. Is they have now available, be probably in production very soon. You can from your proxy, you can not call your backend. Before you call your backend, you can make any HTTP call for any service, then. Or you can, I want to notify someone, then you can do it. It's just like a fan out. You're just sending requests from here. And the next step is you can have custom code here. They are promising a lot of things. I'm not going to promise for them, but they are promised, that you can have your source code and you can deliver here. If you guys want to follow that, we have to probably finish, but open for questions. And can we switch back there? Sorry if you don't have time to go through all these policies here, but we touched, a few things. And rate limit, throttling, caching, authentication, JSON, token validation can be done there. Event Hub, a big one. Transformation, check headers, and you can restrict IPs as well, and you can have some security here. I just want to allow call from a specific, IP number. Then you can have private products here. That's very important for business-to-business integrations. And they have this new error section. And they have new improvements on the development portal in Swagger as well coming. The development portal now, you can probably customize the whole portal now. You can have like what they call templates. And before I used to just customize like styling. Now they are making each page of that portal like a template. Then you can change more deeply how you have your development portal. That would be nice. And just to finish is like deployment is, like we said before, we have API management now in between. Okay, and all the deployments automation will be getting those Swagger files and refreshing your API proxy. Okay, if you change your backend API, you have to refresh your proxy. Yeah, your proxy is not the same anymore. Then Swagger definition is going to help us to automate that, to easily refresh these things here. Not just this thing, but the client as well. We have to refresh if you change your backend API. And they are doing improvements on versioning, how to manage version, different versions as well. And if you guys want to have access to this private preview, you can ask them. Okay, you can ask. It's not like it's open for customers as well. And I think I have just the links here if you guys want to. Yeah, that's the guy that helped me having access to the private one. Sorry, can you switch back there? Yeah, Miao Jiang from Azure API Management. Thank you for him, for your help. And, Channel 9, there's a lot of content there as well. A lot of content there. Switch again. And let's open for questions. Yeah, you can ask anything. That's my contact details. And I'm from Cloud and Cloud Solutions. We have a nice blog here if you guys want to follow. I have some Twitter as well and publish my things. And I wish we have more time. I think it was a challenge session because I think nobody before tried to show microservice container and API management in one day. I think we had a nice feel of what can be done. And that was, try to bring something different. Not just bring one thing, bring the whole idea of microservice container and API management as well. Okay, very nice session from Igniting America on Channel 9. If you follow those guys that I showed before, you can see a lot of content on the Azure API management. Docker and containers, they are everywhere. Okay, Microsoft probably, next month, there's a lot of things coming. I recommend you guys looking for Service Fabric. I think Mahesh is going to have a nice session on that as well. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for attending my session. And